Wherever you go, there you are. I grew up in Beaverton and moved to New York City after high school. I was out there for nearly 10 years with stays in Europe, Vermont, and Ithaca. Then I felt called back to the West Coast. After a 3-month road trip back to the Northwest, I found a job at a company I really wanted to work for in Salem, a town I had driven through but had never explored. Wherever I find myself, I make the best of it by exploring it and finding things that are special to me. Sanctuary is not only found out in nature or sitting in a church. We all find sanctuary every day in the built environment in places such as a wood shop in our garage, a coffee shop, or even the bathroom at work. I want to share some ways to categorize and recognize types of sanctuary to help open your mind to finding and fostering sanctuary in everyday life. Urban sanctuaries exist wherever I find myself. They are places and moments that feel special to me. It's a way of looking at the world in big cities, small towns, or rural areas. Design, creation, and appreciation of the human-made environment has been a cornerstone of my life. Architecture has been the primary driver for my career path, a theme in my... Oh, I forgot about slides. A theme in my travels and a hobby since 8th grade. I have especially enjoyed the craft of making, from learning natural building while sleeping in a tent for a summer in Vermont, to building with Habitat for Humanity in Brooklyn and Brazil, doing house projects for family members across the country on that 3-month road trip, and even doing demolition in Brooklyn. I was preparing to spend the summer after my semester abroad, traveling through Europe. I made a calendar in my small notebook of destinations, and then I was flexible about what I would do once I got there. Plans and ideas are organized. It calms my tendency towards anxiety. However, I don't want the order to be so rigid that it is stifling. I prefer structured flexibility in all aspects of my life. In design, a flexible structure creates opportunities to increase creativity because there's something to respond to. Favorite tasks in my career have been creating floor plans and designing repeat patterns for flooring. There's a delay. Both of these design problems have restraints and requirements that make it like solving a puzzle with only a few guidelines and no pictures of what the final product has to look like. During that summer of travel, I trekked out to the end of a pier in Amsterdam to see a building I had only previously seen in books and magazines. Designed by the Dutch firm MVRDV, the project Silo Dam looks like several different types of buildings stacked on top of each other and is reminiscent of a ship stacked with shipping containers. I was caught off guard when I found myself filled with joy and peace while sitting in the misty air on the deck on the back side of this massive apartment building. My mind was clear and present, soaking in my surroundings, feeling the mist on my face, and exploring the details of the structure in front of me. It felt like a spiritual moment, and yet I was not in a church or traditional sanctuary. For some people, spiritual feelings come from being out in nature, but for me it comes from wandering cities, looking at the details of spaces, how they are arranged, and how materials are put together. I spent my travels exploring cities for their architecture, feeling awe and inspiration everywhere I went, from a typical city street to a church or a coffee shop. I captured these moments through photography and sketching. This idea of spiritual moments in secular spaces, what I refer to as urban sanctuaries, began to develop. With photography and drawing, I was trying to capture the phenomenon of what I was feeling, but it wasn't enough. I needed a way to codify and organize these concepts to help understand these urban sanctuaries. Breaking it down, I determined 5 different experiences of urban sanctuary that I experienced and the associated physical manifestations of them. These are tools for looking at a space to see architecture through a new lens, as well as for use in creating new spaces at many different scales. 5 things are relaxation, isolation, security, reflection, and contemplation. Sanctuary must include the feeling of relaxation. I have found that one of the most luxurious feelings is to not feel rushed, and feeling relaxation comes in the chosen trajectory between destinations. Getting from A to B doesn't have to be a fast, straight line, getting to the destination as quickly as possible. It can also be a curiosity-driven exploration, much like the Billy's maps from the comic The Family Circus. Looking at the edge of town and walking down streets or alleys, previously unexplored or rediscovering them, particularly seeing new art or changes in the streetscape over time, can bring a sense of relaxation. Taking public buses is another great way to explore because you don't have to focus on the driving. You're free to look around and take a note of the city around you. Swapping a vehicle for a bicycle gives a chance to slow down and follow your curiosity and make new discoveries in a new town or even in a town you have lived in for years. The path itself can even be laid out to encourage slowing down with a curve rather than a straight shot to the front door. Isolation is achieved through separation from the main path of travel. This can be vertically, horizontally, or audibly. Vertically, a space can either be raised up or lowered down, like a sunken floor or a view from a tower at the top of a building. Horizontally, off the main path, isolation comes in a change of materials or the addition of a fence of some sort. The path you are on may also be isolated, such as a boardwalk or sky bridge over a street. Audible isolation can be especially helpful in cities, putting on headphones on a crowded subway or street, or a water feature in an urban park to provide white noise. Security, in terms of sanctuary, means feeling secure or comfortable, and it's found in 2 ways: the degree of enclosure of a space and the lighting, both natural and artificial. An atrium of a building that provides natural light as well as a degree of enclosure feels like a space that is isolated and relaxing because it's protected and illuminated. A fully enclosed space, such as a tunnel, the lighting provides opportunity to enhance the environment, and being well lit adds to the secure feeling. Lighting and degree of enclosure are linked. However, every space has its own rules, from lighting on a big open field to the lighting of an alley and even lighting within a restaurant. Though I tend to prefer lighting to be bright, mood lighting is a thing. Reflection, internally reflecting on what's in front of you through a window or through art. Elements can be placed that frame distant views, and they can also frame views by chance. Finding those moments where there is an interesting view snaps me into the present and appreciating what I'm seeing. Specificity of the view has an impact as well on how much I focus on. A large panorama captures a different scene than a single opening facing a memorial. Photography is a great tool for reflection. As the photographer, you get to decide what you want to focus on in that moment. Through photography, you can connect things and find details that other people might pass by. And architecturally, it's possible to do that too with framed views in windows and the layout of a building. But I had those extra slides in there. Texture of the urban fabric can influence this. When driving on a cobblestone street, the texture forces you to slow down. Texture on buildings has a similar influence in that there is a detail to draw you in for contemplation. The materiality of a space encourages a slower pace and draws attention to look at how a surface was made or how 2 different materials meet. Smooth texture can also lead to speed, such as in skateboarding park, where the smooth texture increases speed and focus. And when there's a disruption in the smoothness, it is an opportunity to do a sweet trick if the skater is paying attention, or an opportunity for the landscape to get the better of them. The way maps are drawn lead to how a place is seen. In the 1700s, Giambattista Noli created a map of Rome. It is a figure ground drawing, which means there is a positive and a negative space. Public spaces are positive in white, including enclosed public spaces shown as open civic spaces, and the private buildings are pochade in the negative, in black. In the map, he included churches as part of the open civic space, which led to my interpretation and experience while living in Rome, that the spiritual space of the church spills out into the streets. The streets are not the church, but in a city of more than 500 churches, different paths in the city provide opportunities for sanctuary, in addition to churches, ruins, and monuments. Taking the ideas of public space and urban sanctuaries, I've started to create my own map of urban sanctuaries in Salem. These are places where I have found myself experiencing isolation, contemplation, relaxation, reflection, and security all around the city. Places I feel called to photograph or draw in an attempt to capture the feeling of the space. Places that intrinsically cause me to slow down and become more aware of my surroundings. The practice of photography, I capture details and appreciate them in that moment. Rather than limited to churches and strictly public spaces like the Noli plan, my map expands to include restaurants and shops because these are modern civic spaces. I want to encourage everyone, no matter the size of their city or town, where they find themselves, to explore, take pride, get involved, and appreciate it. Some might think that the grass is always greener in another town, but I encourage you to explore and tend to the grass you find yourself on. No matter where you are, you can take pride, make it yours, and help make it better. I hope that you will take some of these ideas and start to explore your city and document it in ways that interest you, which might be the same way I do with photography and drawing, or maybe you are more of a poet or sculptor or quilter. Either way, I would love to see it. Please use these hashtags on social media so we can all see the new spaces that you find inspiration and explore for ourselves. Okay. It went a little long, but I think that was technical difficulties mostly. But it is a little pushing